My ex-husband invited his mistress to our son's birthday party, then tried to play victim when I confronted them both. All right. I don't even know where to start with this. Like, seriously, I can't believe this actually happened. So my ex-husband, let's call him Mark, has been messing around for a while now. We've been divorced for about a year, and to be honest, the co-parenting thing wasn't all that bad. We kept things civil for our son, Jake, who's 7. I was honestly pretty proud of us for being able to make it work, considering how things ended. We never really had the chance to talk much after the divorce, but at least we kept it together for Jake's sake. You know, birthday parties, school events, all that stuff. And then came the birthday party. Jake's 7th birthday was coming up, and I've been planning it for weeks. I had everything under control. Decorations, food, a cake from that bakery everyone's obsessed with. The whole deal. Honestly, I was excited. Like it's his big day, right? And I wanted to make it special for him. I made it clear to Mark that I was doing the party at our house, and he was more than welcome to come. There wasn't any tension between us about it, so I thought everything was going smoothly. I didn't think anything weird was going to happen. But, oh boy, was I wrong. The party day rolls around, and I'm at home setting everything up, making sure everything is perfect. I'm stressed out of my mind, but it's all worth it because Jake's face when he walks in is going to make everything okay. Right? So the party starts, and everything's going well. Jake's friends are running around, my family is there, and things are looking pretty good. Mark shows up a little later, which is totally fine. He always runs late, but whatever. I'm used to it by now. He walks in with a woman I don't recognize. At first, I thought maybe it was just one of his friends or someone new he started dating. You know, like whatever, he's been single since the divorce, so I didn't think much of it. But then, the vibe was off. She wasn't talking to anyone, just standing there awkwardly by the food table, and she wasn't even really trying to blend in. The whole thing was giving me weird energy. I'm walking around trying to make sure everyone has drinks, but then I catch Mark's eye from across the room. And I see him looking at her in this way that, I don't know, I just knew. It was like a switch flipped in my brain, something wasn't right. And then it hit me. This woman wasn't just some friend or random acquaintance. No, this was his mistress. Like, I don't even know why I didn't recognize her sooner, but the second I made that connection, I felt my stomach drop. It was like I couldn't breathe for a second. My ex-husband had the nerve to bring her to my son's birthday party. In front of our son, in front of my family. I felt like I was losing my mind. I'm just standing there, frozen, trying to process what's going on. Everyone's still laughing and having a good time, but in my head, complete chaos. I looked around for someone to talk to, but no one else seemed to be noticing. They were just chatting away like everything was normal. But I couldn't focus on anything except this woman. So I finally gather myself, and I walk over to where Mark and his mistress are standing. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I just walked right up to him and said, "What the hell is going on? Why did you bring her here?" I couldn't even believe the words were coming out of my mouth. Like, how do you even begin to process something this messed up? Mark gave me that dumb, apologetic look he always gives when he's caught in something, but instead of saying anything like, "I'm sorry," or, "I didn't think it was a big deal," he tried to play it off like I was overreacting. "It's not what you think," he said. "I didn't want to cause any drama. I thought it'd be fine." I was absolutely livid. Are you kidding me? I didn't know if I should scream or cry. He thought it was fine. This was our son's birthday, not some casual get-together where you can show up with your new side chick. I looked at her, and she had this smirk on her face like she was just as confused as I was about why I was mad. I'm sure she thought she was being cute or whatever, but nah, this wasn't cute. This wasn't funny. This was just disrespectful. I couldn't believe the audacity of both of them. I mean, you mess around behind my back, okay, whatever, but you bring her to my kid's birthday? After everything? Mark knew how hard I'd worked to keep things stable for Jake. He knew how much I was trying to make sure that even though we weren't together, Jake's world didn't completely fall apart. And he did this. At that point, I didn't care who was around. I wasn't going to let this slide. "Mark, are you seriously telling me you thought this was a good idea?" I asked him. You think it's okay to bring your girlfriend here, like everything's normal? And guess what he says? I didn't think it'd be a big deal. Are you serious right now? I was done. It's not a big deal, I repeated, voice shaking. It's my son's birthday party, and you're bringing your mistress here like it's nothing. You think that's okay? I don't care what you do in your free time, but you don't get to drag that mess into my son's life. Mark tried to argue, of course, but I wasn't hearing any of it. And then, like clockwork, he goes into his victim mode. You're being dramatic. Why can't you just let me live my life? I didn't want to ruin Jake's party. I thought you'd be okay with it. Be okay with it? Like I'm supposed to be fine with the fact that my son's father thought it was okay to make his birthday about him and his affair? I didn't care about anything else at that point. I told him to leave. I didn't even care if it ruined the party. I told him to get out of my house, and I wasn't going to keep pretending like everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. He wasn't happy about it, of course. He started yelling, saying it wasn't fair and blah blah blah. But I didn't care anymore. I wanted him gone. This wasn't a fight I was going to lose. I wasn't going to let him make me feel like I was crazy or overreacting. He didn't get to make me feel small, especially on the one day that was supposed to be all about our son. Finally, after a lot of back and forth and a few choice words exchanged, Mark and his mistress left. But let me tell you, that wasn't the end of it. The party wasn't the same after that. The damage had already been done. So after Mark and his mistress finally left, without even saying goodbye to Jake, by the way, I felt like my world had just collapsed. The party that I'd been working so hard for was totally ruined. Everyone tried to keep the mood light, but it wasn't the same. How could it be? Jake noticed too. He asked where Daddy and Sarah went, and I just had to tell him that they had to leave early. He wasn't old enough to understand what was really going on, but I could see the confusion in his eyes. And that killed me. He deserved better than this. I tried to keep things as normal as possible for Jake the rest of the day, but I was so pissed off it was hard to keep a straight face. I remember trying to laugh when he opened a gift from my sister, but inside I just felt hollow. I couldn't believe the disrespect Mark had just shown me. The day after the party, Mark started blowing up my phone. It was constant. Text messages, phone calls, voicemails. All of them were some version of the same thing. I didn't mean to ruin everything. Please let me talk to Jake. You're overreacting. Of course, that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was when he played the victim. He actually tried to guilt-trip me by saying I was punishing him for being happy. Yeah, you heard that right. He said he was finally in a good place. And I was trying to make him feel bad about it. He even accused me of not letting him move on, like I was the one who had ruined his chances of having a relationship with this woman. I swear to God, I nearly threw my phone across the room when I read that. He was the one who destroyed our family, and I'm the bad guy for not letting him bring his affair partner into my house on our son's birthday? Is he seriously blaming me for this mess? But it gets worse. So, after all the texts and calls, I finally had enough and decided to confront him. I told him I was done with the back and forth and that I wanted to talk about it face to face. No more passive-aggressive texts, no more playing games. I was going to tell him exactly how I felt, and there was no way he could turn this around. We met up at a coffee shop a few days after the party, just the two of us. I was still angry, but I wanted to keep it civil, so I kept my tone as steady as I could. Mark walked in like nothing happened. He was all smiles, acting like the last few days hadn't been full of drama. He sat down, gave me a weak smile, and said, "Hey, we need to talk about the party." And just like that, he tried to deflect again. No apology, no remorse, just we need to talk, like I was the one who was unreasonable. I didn't give him the chance to play his victim card this time. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Mark, you're not going to sit here and pretend like you didn't do something wrong. You invited your mistress to our son's birthday party in my house, and you thought I was just supposed to let it go. You don't get to play the victim here. You messed up, and you need to own it." And let me tell you, he didn't like that. He immediately started getting defensive, which, honestly, was predictable at this point. "You're just being so dramatic. You don't understand how hard this is for me. I've been trying to do the right thing, but you keep making things difficult. Like, seriously, he had the nerve to make me feel like I was the one ruining his new life with his affair partner. I had to bite my tongue to keep from yelling at him. I took a deep breath, looked at him and just said, "No, Mark, you ruined this family. You decided to cheat, and now you're trying to make it seem like I'm the one who's in the wrong for setting boundaries. Not gonna happen. You can't come into my house, ruin my son's birthday, and then try to guilt-trip me. Not today." But here's the kicker. Right after I said that, he tried to gaslight me. He actually said, "Well, I didn't see you complaining when we were still together. You were always so passive about everything. Maybe if you had been more open about your feelings when we were married, this wouldn't have happened." I honestly couldn't believe what I was hearing. He was actually blaming me for his affair. I swear, this guy's mental gymnastics were next level, but I knew better than to fall for it. I told him, "No, Mark, what happened is not my fault. You chose to cheat. You chose to bring this woman into our lives, and I will not let you turn this around on me." The conversation ended in a stalemate. He gave me some half-hearted apology, but it didn't feel sincere. And honestly, I didn't care. The damage was done. The worst part? He kept trying to justify his actions to my family. I found out through my sister that he'd been telling people I was being unreasonable, and that I couldn't let him move on. He even said he was just trying to be a good father by being present for Jake's birthday, and that I was the one making things difficult. I mean, come on. At this point, I had to laugh. What part of bringing his mistress to my house was being a good father? That was the last straw for me. He wasn't just trying to play the victim. He was trying to turn everyone against me, like I was the one who did something wrong. But the worst part about all this? Jake, of course. After everything went down, I had to sit him down and explain that Daddy wasn't going to be coming around as much anymore, at least for a while. He's only 7, so I kept it simple, but it still broke my heart to see his little face fall when I told him. He deserves better than this. He doesn't need to know all the grown-up details, but he definitely feels the tension. So now I'm just trying to keep it together for Jake, but I know Mark is never going to change. He'll continue to play the victim, make excuses for his actions, and pretend like he hasn't completely fucked up. But I won't let him drag me down with him. I know what I'm doing is right. It's hard, but at least Jake will know that his mom fought for him, that I was willing to set boundaries to protect him and give him the life he deserves.